This is Connected Threads, Season 2 of the Happily Living podcast. I'm your host, Gabrielle Brown, and in this season, we explore the interconnections between ourselves and nature, including how cultural practices, technologies, and lifestyles impact the environment and ourselves. Let's get into it. You guys, wow. Okay, there's a lot to go through. There's a lot to dive in today. Happy December. This year has been full of ups and downs, and in the end, it just shows you that you're just going up, you're just growing. In the background, you hear all the noise, right? And I'm not tuning it out for a reason, because I feel like that's constantly what's happening in our day-to-day. We're surrounded by all these distractions, all this noise, all this turns that, life just throws, these curveballs. And when it gets to holiday season, it feels like you're trying to keep up with everything, and yet you're thrown in this realm of chaos. And it's hard. It's really tough. But I want you to know that no matter what you've gone through this year, no matter what you're dealing with right now, you have gone through so much in your past. You have been in moments where you didn't know if you'd make rent. You didn't know if you'd have that friend anymore. You didn't know if you'd have a job. You didn't know if you'd get through college or high school. You didn't know where your next meal was coming from. You didn't know all these unknowns. And you've gotten through it. You've gotten through it. You've dealt with everything. You've been able to, and I know that this is very different. This is not on brand for me in this podcast to let everything just come through. But I'm just tired. I really am. But I enjoy this podcast because, for one, the immense amount of listeners that have just grown, especially from my last podcast with Janie Crowling and me saying 42 times, that is so sick. Because I was just so me in that moment. I was just so immersed in talking to her, and I just couldn't wrap my head around how beautiful it was that she's doing this. She's kicking butt. She's creating something for herself. And in that moment, I was dealing with a lot. We were dealing with OB having cancer. We were dealing with, multiple jobs at one time. I was dealing with things with the house and flooding and mice, and we've had them 3 times, and I said I'd never talk about it again, and I apologize because I never thought I would have them again. And when I get to a point where I'm just so exhausted internally, mentally, physically even, I forget words. I do. And at that moment, I just was saying the same thing, and that's okay. And I want you to know, anything that you deal with on a day-to-day basis and you're so hard on yourself about, it's okay. This year has been rough for a lot of people. And looking back on it, I am so blessed. I had so many highs and so many great moments, and my lows were not handled as well as I wanted them to be. But looking back, I can clearly say that I've grown since then. It's not like life is happening to me, but I see how I react to things in life. And I'm able to kind of change that. And I wasn't going to talk about whatever on this episode today, but I felt like that was the most authentic for me in this moment. And sometimes my authenticness is what others need to hear in the moment. And maybe you're dealing with that yourself. Maybe you're getting into podcasts Again, maybe you're starting up for the first time. Maybe you're just being a good old supporter and wanting to hear me. And maybe this is something that ended up being something you needed to hear. So today we're going to talk about being there for ourselves and giving ourselves grace and understanding how we can handle things better in moments where we don't feel like our best selves. So we're going to start with knowing what sets us up and knowing what doesn't, I guess, set us up. What basically puts us in the opposite direction of which we want to expand our well-being and skills and just level up. So for me, a couple years ago, I started reading. I started isolating myself a little bit more. I was living with some of my girlies. I was having a great time, but I never really see them as often as I wanted to. But there was a reason for that. And it was because for me, my beliefs is God and I'm a Christian, but whatever you believe, right? For me, I was being led in that moment to have a lone journey, a self-healing year. And it worked out really well for me because I hated being alone. I hated reading. You know, it's just easier to hang out with friends and mindlessly scroll on your phone and talk trash about situations that you think were, shit, and talk trash about people and just whatever, negative energies, because that's easy. When you don't have the energy to do anything, it's easy. I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to do any of these things, but I started. And it started with reading. And you'd be like, yeah, I'm not reading. You lost me there. That's fair. Everyone's got to find something that interests them. For me, it was reading. And I did self-help books. I read before bed. I got up early. I went to go work out. And it helped. It changed me. I felt better. I had less stress. I had energy. I had determination and motivation through the day, and which I didn't have before. I was showing up as my best self because I felt like my best self. I was cooking. I was learning how to do all these things and creating meals and putting myself first and recharging my batteries and doing all these things I needed to do that set me up for success and helped me realize what my passions are and what I want to do with my life and not feel like I have to be in this cookie cutter realm. And I realized this helps me. I need structure. I need this. I need this. I need to journal. I need to read. I need to exercise. I need to eat. I need to do all these things. And then things happen, right? When you don't do that all the time, you start to fall out of it. When you think you're good, why do you feel the need to journal? When you've, made these goals and you're like, okay, I'll read 2 books a month so I can read 24 books a year. But then the following year was like, okay, I'll do 36 books. But there was something about that just wasn't like an actual goal for me, Like, oh, because it's more than last year. There was no passion, no drive for it. And did I do it this year? No. I stopped reading. I barely read. I found excuses to do other things that may be better for my house and whatever, but it wasn't a priority internally. It wasn't benefiting me. It wasn't setting me up for success. I stopped exercising. And then oddly enough, people ask me, they're like, have you lost weight? I'm like, no, I've actually been eating a lot more and I've not been working out, but that's funny. It was just weird, because that's the opposite of what you typically hear. I got acne again. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because I'm trying to get off of all these medications that I don't need to be on so my body can heal, so I'm not deficient on vitamins. I'm trying to figure myself out, and it's been rough. And I don't know if you listening to this have dealt with that, or if, you can relate to that at all. But having all this noise in the background, but also in your head, and then not being there for yourself is almost like setting yourself up for failure, because you have no guard. You have no one standing up for yourself. So if you're not doing the things that make you stronger, and you're being distracted by all these things around you, and then because of all these things, you're not even there in your head, right? You're hearing, yourself be hard on yourself, or, say you didn't handle things properly, or you start to do things like maybe you have acne, right? And a lot of the times when you have acne, you start to get into the habit of picking, popping, touching your face, maybe picking your fingers, doing things to where, either you have anxiety or energy or depression or something that bothers you, right? It doesn't just go away just because you ignore it and you hope that you're not going to be in that situation that may have set it up before. Somehow life will bring you back things that you didn't have a lesson learned from it. Let me reiterate that, or reword it. Life tends to put you through hardships and lessons for you to learn from them and become stronger. Because further down the line, when you have these goals, when you have these things that internally pull you in a direction that you've always wanted to do, that have always somewhat been on your mind, right? That's because it's meant for you. That's because that's what your future self will have. And so you're being pulled in that direction because that is your future. That is who you are. You just haven't had that yet. You haven't experienced that yet because that's your future self. So when you have this, right, you have these lessons in life, you go through situations that suck, that are just garbage, that give you so much anxiety, that make you feel helpless or out of control. You're going to be put through that lesson over and over and over again until you learn how to get through it, until you learn how to manage it, till you pivot, till it doesn't bother you anymore. Because until that happens, you haven't learned from it. You haven't built a skill, a strength to overcome that obstacle, to get to the other points in life that you have to be at in order to succeed in what you want to succeed in. If you want to have your own business, you have to deal with a lot of shit. You have to deal with people doubting you. If you have a dream that no one else could possibly see right now, no one else could think could be possible, could believe in, it doesn't matter because it's not their dream. But you're going to have that. You're going to have all this noise. And then you're going to have internal noise because you're not confident, because you're taking it all in. And then what happens? Then you lose out on your dream. And that is not what's meant for you. So you're put into these situations for you to overcome them because there's so much more difficult obstacles to overcome down the road. And you are not going to succeed them until you get through this first battle. And you don't see it. I don't see it, We don't see how we could possibly get through something that just feels so raw, so down, it just really gets you. Makes you sad. Makes you feel like the world is going after you, is doing things to you. But we're all just here. We're all just here in the world. And it continues. things will go on in the world whether or not you're here. And it's hard to hear that. And so what that means is that you have to be there for yourself. You have to set goals for yourself. You have to push yourself. You have to not care what other people think. You have to not get in your own way. You have to do all these things. Don't you just love it when just a million things go on in your life? Don't you just love feeling bombarded and tossed around and kicked? No one does. So what does that mean? That means you have to figure out how you let other things affect you. Because things are gonna piss you off. Things are gonna not go your way. Things are literally going to make you feel at times like everything that could possibly go wrong is gonna go wrong. And that's when you have to realize, is this worth being upset about? Because a year down the line, 4 years down the line, I'm not even gonna remember this. Being late to work, being late to class, missing your bus, missing your flight, doing all these things. There's a reason. One, we probably should be better productivity-wise and be more on top of our shit, granted. But two, it's completely out of your control. Noises are out of your control. Chaos is out of your control. What's in your control is how you react to things, how you decide to respond. There's a reason you missed that flight, and that's because you would have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's something out there that's protecting you. Whatever you believe in, there's something out there protecting you from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You missed your bus, you missed your taxi, you missed something, you're in traffic, there's a reason. You could have gotten into a car crash. You could have been... there's a million terrible things that could happen, and I'm not going to list them because that's unnecessary. And we don't need that, but you get my point. It's hard to have faith in things that we just want to have control over. And it's hard to have faith in knowing that what we don't think should have happened, and I just have to relax. I'm learning that lesson every single day. I think that's going to be a lesson we will continue to deal with. Life is a lesson in itself. And it's so hard, bro. It's so hard. It's hard not to let noise surrounding you all the time get to you. It's hard not to let upbringings and self traits like controlling, like doing whatever, right? Like, let's be honest. I'll be honest with you right now. Controlling, right? You have people that are controlling in most factors are, relationship wise. I'm controlling in the fact that, like, I feel like I need to do this, and this. If I don't do these things, if I don't clean up, if I don't do this, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm trying to have some sort of control over my life because I feel out of control. And you want to know why that is? Because I'm not being there for myself. I'm not waking up early in the morning and exercising. And I know that helps me. I'm not journaling. I'm not meditating. And I know those help me. I'm not doing the things that I know that help me. And why? I don't know why. I don't. And that's the funny thing. I feel like that even if we're told or shown or given things that we know help us, that we know set ourselves up for success, that make us better, we don't follow through with them. And sometimes we do, and good for us on that. And then other times we just don't. And I don't know what that's about. And it's hard not to be hard on yourself all the time when you know you're not doing things for yourself. Like, who else listening right now feels that way? That you're hard on yourself and you know you need to be better about it. That you constantly give yourself grief about not doing A, B, and C, but yet you do D, E, and F on a daily. You are so kind to other people. You do all these things, and yet you don't reciprocate that kindness to yourself. And that's something we need to change. We label ourselves. We self-diagnose us. We talk badly about ourselves. We talk badly to ourselves. We don't appreciate what we have. We compare. And that's just part of being a person. And it sucks. But it's also beautiful. Because being aware of all these things, being aware of how easily we let other things get to ourselves and how easily we see the lack in our lives, we can easily pivot and say the kindest things to ourselves. We can look ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves that we love ourselves as we are. That this is just our physical body, and that realistically it is silly to define our worth and our beauty by physicality. I was just given this body by the grace of God, and there's no reason to disrespect that when right? Like my human brain labeling it, but what our Creator has made for ourselves is far more beautiful and incomprehensible than we could wrap ourselves around to even think. But also, our souls inside. The thing I love about the Soul movie is that it kind of represents what it truly is, what life really is. And it's about how different and unique each person is, and it's developed by our soul. Everything is developed by our soul. And this physical body that holds our soul is how we are human, how we experience the human life, how we live lives differently through each human. But it's also about recognizing how we take care of our body. And luckily, most of us can say that we were all born perfect. Every single one could say we were born perfect because we're born exactly the way we were supposed to be. But it's how we take care of ourselves in the end. And yet we can throw things in like our environment, whether that's the people we're surrounded by, the infrastructure, like the physical buildings, the physicalness that we are surrounded by, the health and wellness, the food, the nutrition, water, just resources that we're surrounded by. Things change, and everyone goes through something, and it creates who we are today. And I'm not, disacknowledging. I don't even know what that word is. Disacknowledging, I don't think is a word. But I'm not passing over anything that anyone has undergone that is traumatic and saying that was on them by any means. But what I am saying is that no matter what you've gone through, you are beautiful, you are perfect, You deal with a lot. You have come this far, and you have overcome it. You've overcome everything to this day that you didn't think you'd get through. And so I'm telling you, I'm telling myself, everything always works out the way it's supposed to. Everything does. And we never see it in the forefront. We always doubt, we always worry, we always try to implement some sort of control that we can provide. But we have to let it be. Let it be. The only thing that we truly need to focus on is ourselves, our well-being. And it's hard to be everything at once. You can't be everything at once. Maybe at some day you can be more than who you are today, but that's because of growth. That's because of the obstacles that are gonna come. It's because of life. That's because of noise. But it's also because of your reactions, your responses. This has been a tough month. This has been a tough year. But it's also been a beautiful and amazing and adventurous and spontaneous filled year. And a gifted year. Sometimes I look back to those days when I first started reading and I first started this growth journey and I figured out my passion and I graduated college and I manifested all of these things and I loved who I was. I loved who I was showing up as. I loved all these things. And I look back and I feel like I miss that person. I feel like I was so much better then. And then I realize if I was quote unquote so much better then, why am I not doing the things I know I should be doing? Why do I feel like this? Why am I putting that pressure on myself? Why do I think that every season's going to be the same? Why do I have these expectations for every single year of the things that I do that determine my worth and accomplishments by my age? I don't know. I'm hard on myself, but it's not okay. And I'm still working on it. But I know that looking back and you write things down and how much I've accomplished, how much I've done, just being here, being surrounded by family, being able to drive, having, sight, having touch, having taste, having sound, having, my 2 feet and my 2 hands and getting to see the sky and getting to breathe fresh air and getting to walk my dog and getting to do all these things, right? Getting to pay my bills with money that I've gotten to make, and it's just such a blessing that we take for granted and we don't see, because I feel like we are somehow programmed to initially think of all the things we don't have. And it's hard not to compare to other people's situations. But they go through things that we don't, and they get this and we don't, but we get this and they don't, and it's a give and take, That's why people say that it's not everything you see is everything that's happening, right? Like, there's much more beyond than what meets the eye. People go through a lot more than what you think. Be kind to people because they could be going through something. There's all these sayings, right? And it's true. You could be having a really bummy, gloomy, down day, and it could be sunny out. You could have just woken up. You had a great day yesterday. You don't know why. And you feel guilty. And it's okay. It's okay to be dealing with down stuff. It's okay to be feeling hard on yourself. It's okay to be feeling what you do. but realize that you are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings, but knowing that sometimes if we are down in energy, if we are feeling meh, it's okay to feel that way. But it's when we start to say, like, I am not enough, or you're having thoughts about, like, oh, that person's so rude, or like worse thoughts, like I don't even know what to say right now just because it's not on the top of my mind, but you know what I mean, like when you're in the car and you're driving and someone cuts you off and you're like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, really? Like, you thought that was a smart move? Like, these are things that go on in my head. I'm like, you're serious? Like, or when someone throws something on the ground, like I've seen people coming out of a yogurt shop and they're right next to the trash can and they just throw it on the ground. And it's like, really? Like, you are so... And you call them names. You judge them. You do all these things, right? And it's just like, you do the same thing to yourself. And that's where you just have to realize you don't have to acknowledge those thoughts right away. Because if you feel like, okay, that's not me, like, I don't appreciate what they did, but that's not me to call them names, or that's not me to take this from somebody, or that's not me to not show this integrity of myself in this moment because I don't feel like it. Like, that's not me. I may have had these thoughts, but, like, I am not my thoughts, right? And this may not be my best episode, and that's okay. And I think the reason why I make these episodes is, one, for me, but also I feel like it resonates with a lot of people too, because I have listeners, right? You guys are my listeners. You're listening to it right now, and I hope it resonates with you. And it's been wild. I've been wanting to expand the podcast more, and then every time I want to, I feel like life is throwing all these things and like I'm somehow unable to. And I'm wanting to do so many different things in my life at one time, and there's just not enough time, and yet I'm so hard on myself because I'm not doing it, getting all these things done, and yet, like, you can't do everything. And yet I want to do everything. So obviously I'm being shown that maybe right now it's not the time to expand the podcast. It's not the time to do all these things on social media and get into this. Even though I'm being pulled in that direction, I'm wanting to do all these things. It gets me excited, gets me driven. So maybe there's things that I need to learn first and take the time to do the podcast when I get a chance to, but not so little to where I'm just not doing it, keeping myself accountable and still doing it. Does that resonate with you? Is there anything in your life where you're just like wanting to do this and this and this, and they're all vastly different, and then every time you try to do this one thing, it's like you feel like there's all these things being thrown at you, and you just don't know how you're not able to get past this point, and it feels like it's such a push, like there's so much friction, and it doesn't feel like that should be happening, right? Like there's something that just is telling you, like, not right now. And you don't know why. Because it gets you excited, it gets you driven, you're wanting to do it, you get energized, and then you're just like, why? I get that. I'm right there with you right now. And so my hopeth, I can't believe I said that. That doesn't surprise me though. But my hope, my faith, is to just let it be and just go with it. And not try to fight it, not try to force it into fruition. Because if I do that, it's not going to be what I want it to be. And there's a reason. There's a reason why I'm not able to do it easily. It's just not the time. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do the podcast. That's not what I mean at all. That's why I'm only doing it once a month. And clearly I missed it this month. And that broke my heart. That broke my heart. I have to be consistent. I have to do all these things. I have to blah, 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 blah. And that's one of the things. Have to. If you have to and you're saying you have to do anything, you get into the wrong mindset. But getting to do all these things and I don't feel like I am, or I'm not following through or whatever, I'm so hard on myself about it. And it's just like, it's not the end of the world. And it's going to be okay. And if it wasn't meant to be, I wouldn't have created something. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do the things that have come into fruition right now. I wouldn't have had the opportunity or ideas or whatever to make 13 episodes and have a podcast and have a platform and have listeners all over the world. And getting to even say that, just like, that's incredible in itself. So I think I'm just hard on myself about not feeling adequate, not showing up as much as I feel like I should be and want to be. And that's not the case at all. So if you understand what I'm saying, my point of this podcast is trying to share with you what I'm going through, and hopefully it connects with you as to how we give ourselves a hard time, how we talk to ourselves, how we are thrown things in life, what things are going on this year, how everyone's different, and yet we're all the same. And it's cliche as ever, but it's the most simplest fact in life. I have episodes lined up, I have ideas and topics, I have guests and all these things set up, and life just throws curveballs. At times, do I feel like anyone listens to this? No. Is that true? No. At times, do I feel like... do I feel inadequate? Do I feel like my content is even good? No. Is it true? No. My thoughts are not me. I am not my thoughts. I have to trust the process. You have to trust your process. You have to trust your timing of life. You have to trust yourself. You have to learn to create a relationship with yourself, to enjoy life. And I think I learn that every single day. The meaning in life, or one of the meanings in life, is recognizing that you will only see life through your eyes, your perspective, your thoughts, your body, all of these things that are happening and cultivating this library of filled with all these chapters and books and series and whatever. That's literally writing your life and your story. You will be the only person that will ever get to experience it the way you do, and think the way you do, and get the jokes and the moments and the energy the way you do. And if other people don't get it in that moment, do not let them make you feel inadequate. Do not let them make your energy change and change the way that you're vibing because they don't get it. I've learned to figure that out the hard way. A lot of things that I think about and cultivate and say just don't resonate with a lot of people. Half the time it doesn't resonate with Ben. And yet I've learned to just, it's like, it's okay, you don't get it, but I do. And that's all that matters. I literally say that from time to time. And he laughs and he enjoys it and I enjoy it. Because I don't want to take away these moments, these core memories, these seconds, like time away from my life, trying to please other people, trying to get other people to understand what I'm talking about, what my jokes are, whatever, my feelings, at times that they don't. That's okay. If you're vibing and people think you're stupid, I think it says more about them. I think that's a projection. And I think that's safe to say you should just keep vibing. If you feel like you have to constantly explain things for yourself as to why you did this, why you're doing this, what you're doing, like, oh, I'm not being rude, I'm doing this. Communication and explanation are very different. Try to learn the difference. Communication is amazing. It is the most, how do I say this? Having the skill of communication, trying to learn how to communicate, trying to elevate your skill in communication could be one of the best things you do for yourself. I think the biggest downfall in human society is communication. And it may always be. It's in relationships, it's in ourselves, it's in family, it's everything. But when you start to explain things so you don't feel like people will judge you, that's where you cross the line. These people may be judging you, but that's, for one, that shouldn't be the case. You don't need to be around people that judge you, and that says more about them because they judge themselves. What they do to people, they do to themselves. If I'm controlling to myself, I'm controlling outwardly, and I'm becoming more aware of that, and it breaks my heart because that's not who I am. If I'm judgmental to somebody, I'm judging myself harder. If I'm talking smack and belittling someone, I do that harder to myself. And that's not a life to live. So learning where you can just be around people, where even in those moments where you just want to explain what you're doing and you're like, sorry, I'm doing this, like, I don't want you to think I'm taking this or doing this or blah, blah, blah. No, just prevent yourself from saying that and just see how it goes. See how you feel. Do you care more about other people's thoughts and judgments and what people rate you as? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you care more about how people feel about you than anything else? And if that's a yes, then you need to become solely focused on how you can be your biggest advocate, how you can be your rock, how you can be there for yourself and love yourself and find happiness in isolation. Because I learned that I do so much better in isolation than I do in bigger, parties or bigger gatherings of some sort. And then that's where now I'm relearning and doing new learning on how I can be myself around other people, show up for myself as I do by myself in front of other people. People go through different skills. People go through different things in life. And if you're going through this, I hope that this episode helped you. I hope that acknowledging how we get sucked up in the noise around us and in our heads and judgment about what people think of us, what people think of what we make, what our creation is, whatever isn't worth our time, it isn't worth our energy, it's not worth our stress. We deal with a lot of shit on a day-to-day basis that we shouldn't have to give energy to and give attention to, and yet we do. So I'm going to leave this with you today. There's this quote that I've listened to, and it says, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And he repeats it. He says, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because when you work hard on your job, you earn a living, and that's fantastic. But when you work hard on yourself, you earn freedom. And that's eternal. That's limitless. Feel free to reach out to me on any form of social media, email, whatever it is. Like, subscribe, leave a review. Share with people what you think of this podcast, what you think of this episode, what you feel like you get from this. Could be good or bad. I want honesty. I do. Leaving a review helps so much, and I don't think a lot of people take the time to do it because it's not important to them, and I get it. But if you'd like to, I would love that and appreciate it with open arms. Do something nice today for yourself, for someone else. Smile. Smile at a stranger, and it feels weird and uncomfortable, and it's great. I've gotten into the habit of smiling at people, and when they don't smile, they need it the most. Maybe write yourself a letter. Maybe tell yourself all the things that you feel like you love about yourself. Maybe tell yourself that you love yourself. Maybe tell yourself, thank you for being here. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for pushing through. Thank you for hope. Thank you for freedom. Thank you for choice. Maybe write down what you're grateful for. A bed, a blanket, warmth, fresh air, a fridge stocked with food, water at any time. For knowledge, for clothes, for sight, for laughter, to be able to read, to be able to write, to be able to create, to be able to imagine, to be able to live on your own, to be able to see your family, to be able to shout and cheer and get excited, to be able to cry, to be able to move your toes, to be able to smile, to be able to exert your being and your self. Don't let the haters get to you, especially yourself. I'll see you guys in January. With love and light.